you have those ideas as a creator that you're like, oh, that'd be a cool thing to do and it'd be fun to try, and you never actually like it doesn't actually come to happen. Well, I feel like we came up with this idea and we just kept going and we haven't stopped. And now we're gonna do it, so it's a thing. This is gonna be awesome. We are doing. We've got tonight's. We are doing Alaska poetry, the nature of poetry, and it is a collaboration between me and ShelbyLynn Pursley, who's in the room, and you will see in a second. Um, and what we're going to be doing is she and I together have selected a series of photos from. Let's see, my mic is not on. Is that what we're starting with? Hang on. What a way to start this to kick this thing off. I think you should be able to hear me though. Nope. Okay. I'm hearing that twice. Give me a sec. Let's see. Let's switch it to. Okay, is that better? I think I'm yelling at you guys now. Let's turn that down. Okay. Better? Give me a thumbs up. This is how this starts. I want to cancel the stream and start over again. Um, yeah. We got Maria Lisa in the room. She's stage managing. If you can't hear me, none of this means anything. Um, yeah, I'm seeing levels. This should be coming through. There we go. Okay, now we're hearing me. Awesome. Okay, so starting over. Here we go. Welcome to tonight's live stream. This is a fantastic, cool thing that we're doing. This is one of those ideas that, like, I feel like when we had this idea, me and ShelbyLynn, to start it, we didn't know where it was gonna go, and like didn't know if it was gonna become a thing, and now it just kind of snuck up on us, and now we're doing it. So here we go. This is we're calling it's Alaska, the nature of poetry. And what we're gonna do, we have ShelbyLynn Pursley in the room. She's a published poet, and you've got me. You know my stream, my channel. I'm a photographer, and tonight we've got a selection of photos from my recent trip to Alaska, and we are going to be I'm going to be editing the photos and tweaking them the way that normally happens on stream, but she is going to be writing poetry about each poem and kind of composing works live in the room with us. So it's going to be like you're going to see our creative processes happen at the same time. She's got a camera and a mic on her, and you'll be able to see what she's working on her tablet. So yeah, with that said, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and gonna go ahead and jump in. Yeah, we'll go ahead and bring this up, and I'll do a little more introducing as we switch over. So hang on a second, make sure the sound is working. All right, so ShelbyLynn, you are on camera. Say hi. There we go. Give me one sec. Okay, ShelbyLynn, go ahead and talk for us.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Okay, can you guys hear her? Give us a thumbs up if you can hear her. But yeah, so there we go. I think we're good. So yeah, so ShelbyLynn's over, kind of across the room from me. We are just, like she's got those pillows behind her. If she ever needs to throw them, she might have to throw one at me at some point during this, just to confirm that we are in the same space. But yeah, so ShelbyLynn is in the room, and what you're seeing on your screen here on my side, you see Lightroom, which is kind of where we're going to be doing the photo editing, and then on this side, there we go. We've got a live feed from her tablet, so you will be seeing what she's working on and seeing how, as she composes her poems, and she'll talk. Yeah, I know there's a little bit of an echo. We kind of get like just two mics in the same room. I'll turn mine down a little bit. But yeah, so that's the plan. I think once we start talking, separately, we should be okay. Fingers crossed, anyway. Worst case scenario, I'll kill my headset mic and just yell louder at her mic. But okay, so yeah. With that said, I think anything else you want to say?
I'm really excited for this. These photos are amazing. I've done a couple trial rounds, and I'm ready to do this for real now.
All right. Do we want to do a warm up before we start with the main ones, or no?
Let's jump in.
Let's jump right in. Okay. So, yeah, we'll start with. I think we're gonna start with this one here. Going to develop. So yeah, we are off and running. This photo. This photo is from the. Let's see. Elena says, "Get to work." Also, just as a quick, this is not a telethon. I'm not trying to. I don't want to make a thing out of this. But one of the things, like me and Maria Lisa, who is in the room, we are co-directing a production of Heathers right now. and we've got a fundraiser going to try to raise money to make that production bigger and better and all the wonderful things it can be. So in a second, Maria Elise is going to drop the GoFundMe in the chat if anyone wants to donate and or is enjoying the work the photos that I'm working on, is enjoying this kind of way of sharing creative art. And you want to support us in a way, that's the best way to do it right now.
Also,
So.
I had the privilege of going to rehearsals the other night, and by far, like, phenomenal work. So, like, I wish that I would be able to be there to see this, because it's going to be incredible. And if you can make it to this Heather's production, you need to.
Yes, Heather's production going up in Virginia in October.
And we just hit the $2,000 mark on our GoFundMe campaign.
There we go. We just hit $2,000, and yeah. So fingers crossed, we'll get the rest that we need.
Yeah, we got a ways to go.
Okay, so with that said, you're here for photography and poetry. Let's start working on it. So this photo is, as ShelbyLynn starts kind of putting pieces together, this photo is from Skagway. It's the White Pass. It's taken from the White Pass Railroad, but it's which goes along the White Pass Trail up there, which is one of the trails people took to try to get up into Canada. To Dawson City when they were during the Yukon Gold Rush, which was a spectacular scam. Not a scam, not intentionally a scam, but just 100,000 people left the U.S. trying to get up into Canada and into the Gold Rush to try and find their fortune. And by the time they got there, it turns out that before they'd even heard about this thing, all of the there had been prospectors up there for decades, and all of them had already staked out every claim along the river. So, all right, here we go.
So whenever I write poetry based on photographs like this, the first thing that I do is I kind of outline what the photo is and what the important pieces are for what I am seeing in this photo. So I've already put on here, there's a bridge across the center. The side of the hill, there's a side of a hill on the left, and it's very, very green. And then there's a lot of fog in the top half-ish of the photo, and then the bridge is crumbling on the right. So then I take these general concepts and I create kind of my ideas, like what do I feel from this photograph, and it's kind of like there's an air of mystery. There's destruction, disappointment.
Let's see. So I'm right now trying to find the balance of the crop here. I'm trying to find where I want exactly how I want this to kind of piece out, kind of parse out. I think something like that might not be bad if I can get kind of the our eyes are drawn to the thirds, and if I can pull this down a little more. I don't know if I want to, but I kind of like 1/3 kind of being on this peak in the middle of this part, and then the other third being in the gap. I think it draws your eye nicely. Let's see. We could go up and kind of do it like that, which does kind of give you more of a feeling of looking up at the sky versus coming down here and seeing the. I don't know. I like seeing the river down there, but part of me is also like if I go up to the sky here, we get a lot more of a sense of the, like I don't know. I always think looking up and having more space above something gives you something more aspirational, and a broken bridge at the bottom as a foundation. I think it's just the Green Day in me, but it's got some kind of a Broken Dreams vibe, and I don't dislike that. Yeah, doing it that way just shows it. Let's do.
So once I have my kind of concepts here, which I'm just going to stick with those three right now. We might go back and add some more. I go ahead and I start actually brainstorming the poetry. Sometimes I am able to just jump straight into a specific poem or a specific idea or what have you. And sometimes it takes a little bit of pulling it out a little bit. So we're going to do that.
Yep, and I'm trying to balance out seeing the balance out how much, trying to find the brightness here, keeping the contrast there. Unfortunately, there's a little bit of contrast elsewhere as well, so I'm probably gonna do a mask and darken up everything that's not the bridge a little bit, just to pull the bridge out a little more. Actually, Let me start this. If I select subject, this is not going to work, but I'm curious what it's going to give me. Okay, actually, what did you just select? You know, I've had it come back and tell me it can't find the subject. I've never had it come back and tell me the subject is sort of 2 parts of this and whatever that thing is down there. I don't know what that thing is. Yeah, we're deleting that. We're not going to use that mask. What is that thing? No, that's 800%. That's not going to help me. Oh, just one of the foundations. Okay. That's whatever that is. Okay, sure. Anyway, let's go back to this. Let's see. Also, Maria, you dropping the GoFundMe link?
I did.
Oh, okay.
You can see it in the chat.
It's time to scroll.
Not on chat. Anyway.
Can you scroll on OneNote?
Oh, yeah. Is that enough?
There we go.
Is that too much?
That's good.
Okay, I can make it smaller if we need to. Okay, let's see. What do I want to do with this photo? Definitely like pulling the texture. I think I want to pull the texture out for something more on the bridge specifically, because I kind of like the haziness of everything around it. Let's pull this up a little more. Unlock that. We're not sticking with a specific crop. That's why quickly if I went 1 to 1, that looks like that. There's something about going tighter in there, but I like seeing the whole bridge. I like seeing this almost, especially because we do tend to kind of view everything kind of left to right. So starting it here, and you see the bridge going across, and then you get to the spot where it's gone, I think is good. Ooh, that actually gives me something. That's giving me a little more scope to it. Cranking up the clarity is good. There's a starkness to this that I like. Usually I dehaze things. I think I might up or crank up the dehaze to kind of pull out the shadows and stuff in the mountain. I think I'm going to do the opposite this time and kind of bring up the fog a little bit. May darken everything else in the background later. Let's see. ShelbyLynn, Elena says she likes that you've already given the bridge human qualities.
You're gonna need to scroll again.
Yep, you got it. Yeah, they might next order businesses start getting the actual color of this thing together. Whoa, that's a bit much.
So with poetry, with this bridge already getting human qualities, it's one thing that's seen a lot in poetry is a lot of poets will seek out, like, what is this telling me? How is this calling to me? How is this talking to me? And so for me personally, inanimate objects and animals and all that jazz tend to end up with a lot of human qualities just because that's the world that we know. And while it's not necessarily forcing those qualities onto those things, it's bringing them around to a way that we're able to understand. And so that's one thing that happens a lot, very, very frequently with my poetry. And this first poem, which I didn't expect to go straight into a poem, I expected to have a little bit of brainstorming. It's almost done.
I'm sorry, you're almost... okay, I need to work quicker. Guys, I'm falling behind.
I will probably do at least one shorter one with this one as well. We're probably going to get 2 or 3 out of this photo.
I like hearing that. All right, I'm going old school with this, trying to get this bridge separated here.
that's one.
All right. Okay, so that's that. So now now I've got everything else selected. I can start messing with color and detail. It's gonna be a little obvious, so I'm gonna work on it. That's what this needed. A little bit of clarity down. Let's keep the highlights where they are. Add brush. See the other lines that I need to work on. Color can be up here. Feather can be up. That's good. Elena says, ShelbyLynn, I want your poem to have a story about you in it.
Sorry, I didn't find a suitable device near.
All right, we've triggered Alexa. Hang on a sec.
What the heck just happened? That was creepy, and I hated every minute of it.
I'm sorry, it lasted for minutes for
Shut
you?
up. You know what I meant.
She said what? Sorry, I got distracted by Alexa.
Don't say the name. She said, she wants your poem to have a story about the I think story about the universe in it, or you in the universe. Elena, I'm not sure where the word universe is supposed to go in there. She corrected herself.
Okay.
In the multiverse of now, what is happening in ShelbyLynn's life while this bridge is living? That's what Elena just asked.
What's happening is I'm doing this. The bridge is there and I'm here. Also, this bridge has kind of taken on a bridging the gaps of time kind of aspect to it in this poetry over here, so.
I mean, it absolutely is, yeah. Turn that off. Yeah, that helps. We got this one. I'm missing a spot. I'm missing an area down here. This area here needs to be.
So this is something that's really unique about how I do these poems, where it's the photos and I do the ideas and all of that. Up at the top, I kind of brainstormed some ideas. I did air of mystery, destruction, and disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And we're landing on, it's kind of just a bridge connecting the past to the present. And that's not in any of those ideas.
I mean, that's what's great about this, that like the ideas of develop and evolve. Something I talked about, I think, on the last stream, is that like you work on a photo and you find, like, as you work on it, you start finding the things that, as you start tweaking, you start by cropping it, and then you work on to find the things that kind of define it more, and then as you do more of that, it eventually, you eventually go back and go, oh, I need to crop this differently because this photo's now told me more about what it is. You need to scroll again, or are you good?
Yeah, scroll.
Okay, give me 1 sec. There you go. Not a lot of orange in this. Let's bring the yellows down. Yellows across the board on this thing, though. That's not helping. Bring the oranges down. That's helping to pull the bridge out a little more. We got any reds in here? I think there'd be a little bit of red in the bridge. Doesn't look like it. Let's see. Okay, I think I know what we're gonna do. It's just for the yellow a little bit less than that.
So this quick little poem that I just wrote, that's 5 lines. This is called a Tonka poem. Fun fact: it's very similar to a haiku. What it is it's 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and then 7 syllables. And so it's another similar type of poem to the haiku because it's a very short and structured poem in the sense of the syllabicalness. I don't know what that word would be. But it's not quite the same because it is just a little bit longer. Instead of just the 5-7-5, it's the 5-7-5-7-7.
That's cool.
Learned something new today.
Absolutely. I usually do when I work with you. Trying to find the balance here where this green looks good. Gotta get the greens to all look the same. That works. Now, come on. Push my yellows a little more toward green. Get kind of a overall green look going. That's good. One thing that always that's really surprised me about Alaska was how incredibly lush it was. It was an absolutely gorgeous, just vibrant landscape that I really, really loved. So I'm excited always excited to find ways to put in more bright colors there. Shadows down a bit, bring the highlights up just a touch. Yeah. ShelbyLynn, I'm going to do a couple different versions of this one.
Okay.
Saturate with green saturation there. I like that. I like when it hits that kind of lush color to it. Alright. Next question is there any reds or purples kind of hanging out here? I don't think there are really. Not really. Maybe a little bit in the rocks down there, but not enough to really warrant doing much with. So I'm gonna be pretty happy with that, I think, right now. Let's do. That's about where it was. Need to scroll again?
Yep, I was about to tell you.
There you go. I got you. Elena says she's fading, but she tells us to keep up the work. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you, Elena.
All right, let's try something. Let's do a new brown. Let's do color now. So we've got a whole lot more green involved here.
Oh, that's not how you write that.
Get a lot of this in here. Come on, Lightroom, catch up with me. There we go. There we go. Let's come across. Huh?
Okay, so what I just did with this, because I started with that first Tonka up there, that's the 57577. What I did is I basically did a triple Tonka. So basically, it's three separate, three stanzas that are all Tonka formatted, so that it's one longer poem with three of the same formatted stanzas.
Cool.
So this now has 3 poems.
All right, well then I will finish this one up quickly and we'll move on to the next one. So we've just selected the bridge. Now I can use that to up the texture on it and really bring in the colors there. Bring in not so much the color, but just the. Let's keep the whites back. Yeah, bring up the texture. Let's bring the highlights down a bit.
So if you've been reading along as I've been writing these 3 poems, tell us your favorite. 1, 2, or 3.
There we go. Much.
And really and truly, when doing this sort of writing with poetry, it's kind of how it goes. You don't get one poem for one photo most of the time. There's some exceptions. I think we're gonna have an exception tonight. Usually you end up having, it speaks to you in different ways depending on what areas of the photo you're focusing on, what you're looking for in that photo, how it's talking to you. And then of course, with Eric actively editing over here, it's kind of changing what's speaking in the photo with every edit, which is a really unique and fun thing, because every time the greens get upped or this color changes or something gets shifted, it changes the way it speaks just a little bit. So it's really fun to kind of see the evolution of how we started with one photo and we ended up with this masterpiece, this gorgeous thing.
Oh, stop that. Stop that immediately.
It's true though.
Nah.
Shut up. And so with that, the poems kind of shifted because we kind of had this bridge is clinging desperately to the 2 sides of this mountain, and it's trying to hold together the line that is time. It's trying to hold it all together. And then we kind of had there's this air of mystery, and the fog is rolling in, and what's happening with that, and what we really don't know. And then now, this last poem is kind of, this bridge is not so much trying to cling to the past and the present at the same time. It's connecting the two and making sure that they're interwoven, and it's forcing us to think about, how does what happened here before influence what's happening here now?
Love it. That's awesome. So I'm gonna do real quick. I'm gonna do a couple just real fast versions of this. I'm gonna do 2. Oh, that's not what I need. There we go. 1 virtual copy. Need a couple of these. All right, Lightroom, what are you doing? Let's see. Give me virtual copy. Cool. There we go. So now we've got 2 virtual copies of the photo. What we're gonna do is, let's see, this first one, I'm just gonna recrop it a little bit, because I would like this to, literally gonna come in here and just do this one, just about the gap in between the bridge. Make that the centerpiece of the photo. And we're gonna pull this up a little higher. There we go. So we're gonna do that with one of them. And the second one, we're gonna keep the original crop here, but I'm gonna do one more mask, a linear mask. go across the thing. It's going to go all the way across, so it's just kind of a something like that, kind of a fade to this. Then we're going to bring the saturation down so that as we come across the picture, we start losing color. Bring up the texture on that side. And with the clarity where it is, we're going to push this a little more toward.
I love that. Wow.
A little more toward a yellow. Too much. Something like that, I think, is a good. Kind of intentionally artsy. Nope, don't rotate. Just move a bit more. There we go. Love that feeling to be kind of right in the middle of the gap. There we go. Done. Okay. So yeah, those are our first edit of these photos. ShelbyLynn, do you want to read your poems on here?
Sure.
Cool.
So the first one is the bridge clings, holding tightly to the edge of the mountain. It holds on with desperation to a way of life that once was. The planks fall in tatters along the trees grown in time. They yearn for days of old when there were simpler times. But time can never be turned back to the days of old. The universe of now will never be prepared to the days of then. The second one, the fog rolls down in waves of mystery as the bridge connecting us to what might have been clings to the mountainside. And the third one, the bridge connects us to the lives lived in the past. It tells us the tale of those who came before and reminds us of the now. Who came here before? How did they shape the world? Would things be different if they hadn't touched this place? How might the pieces have fallen? We stay here, present, living in this one moment, taking it all in, and we cling to this, here, now. We find peace in the now. And that's the three.
Those are pretty good. Wow. I've read your poems, and hearing them for the first time live in a room is pretty crazy. That's wow. Oh my god, this is awesome. Okay.
I'm glad you enjoy it.
I love it. All right, I'm doing a last quick tweak on the final photo because I want to clear off some of that noise in the sky. I'm just gonna up that and bring the texture down a little bit on that. And that should. There we go. Cool. Done. All right. First three done. Let's move on to another one, shall we?
We shall.
All right. I'm thinking I want something blue.
Okay, scroll us down a little bit.
Oh yeah, let's scroll you down here.
Thank you.
I'm thinking, how's a glacier sound?
Sure.
All right, so we're gonna go to Glacier Bay. So this is one I definitely get to talk some more, because that's true of just all of these. This is a shot of Marjorie Glacier from Glacier Bay. And if you're wondering which part of the picture, like just the glacier down here, no, Marjorie Glacier is pretty much everything. This mountain up here, and this little bit of rock right here, and this little bit of rock right here, and I guess the sky are the only things that are not part of Marjorie Glacier. Marjorie Glacier starts up here. It doesn't start. I mean, technically, it starts way back in the mountains. But Marjorie Glacier starts here, comes down. This is all her. That's not her. Marjorie Glacier is named after the white guy who discovered its mentor. And last name Marjorie. It's named after a dude. Named after a white dude who was not here. But yeah, this is all. These dark patches are also still glacier. This is just covered in dirt, and we'll talk about that. We've got some other photos we might touch on that are glacier related. I'll just show that real quick. It's a close up of a glacier with plenty of dirt on it. So this is what happens when that gets goes to its extreme. So this is all the glacier, and we're gonna work on this. Which is gonna be a lot of saturation because I wanna the color on this glacier is just non-stop wonderful, and we're gonna work on that. All right, let's start with bringing up the clarity. This shot's about texture. This shot is depth and texture, and hey, look at that! I love the dehaze tool. Like, yeah. Let's bring those highlights down. Yeah, we're gonna get some swirling fog around that mountain up top.
Also, that letter right there, this one right here, I'm circling it. That is not an S. That is supposed to be image of the way that it curves. Just so you'll know, I know how to write an S. It's not an S. That's why it's like that.
All right. All right. So I think I'm done with this picture.
Ah!
I wanted to see your face when I did that. But no, this one is doing a lot easier job telling me what it's about. All right, so we're gonna have some fun with the blues there.
That's not a letter. I looked up.
Saturation of the aqua. The only thing I want to do is I want to keep the blue up on the mountain, but I also want to really get the pull out the blues that are in the glaciers. So we're gonna try. All right, again, select subject. What is it gonna give me? What does it think the subject of this photo is? Okay, kind of a weird mountain slash. Yeah, we're not doing that. I'm not really I feel like I'm making fun of Lightroom for that, even though Lightroom's like that's a feature mostly designed for human photography. All right, so we're gonna refine this down. So, you know, I can actually pull this up a little bit, kind of like that, and then we'll use a subtract brush to get it all off the sky and so on.
Can you scroll this again?
Yep, one sec. Let's scroll down. So there you go.
Thank you.
Alright, I'm not going to adjust this yet. I want to pull up the saturation first and really bring out the beautiful colors of that glacier. Texture as well. I'm going to have to do some of this by hand, I can just tell already. I want to pull up the clarity, but there's something really nice about just the gentleness of that glacier. Like something is really just pretty about that. It's a bit too much. Alright, cool. So let's see the overlay. I'm going to use an add brush with a slightly lower flow. So I can come in here and kind of pick up these areas here. Actually, turn the overlay. Yeah, I still think I want it.
Alright, those are some pretty good concepts right there. This is going to be fun. So, doing the same thing again, I went ahead and did a brief description of the photo for my own sake, just to kind of see what's calling to my eyes. And then I did the concepts, which for this one we have carrying the past with us, bringing along the good, holding onto and learning from damage dealt.
Yeah.
So that's kind of going to be this leaping off point for writing for this glacier.
Awesome. And I'm gonna keep working on. I'm gonna get the colors of this glacier pulled out here, and then I'm gonna once I get this photo where I want it. This photo requires substantially less editing than the last one. This one.
Oh no.
No, you're good. I've got so many glacier facts I can talk about. It's gonna just turn to a glacier fact extravaganza while you finish up your poems. Because a lot of things you just said are very worth referencing in terms of glaciers. Let's leave some of those spots kind of. So now, if I turn up the overlay, that is coming along nicely. I like that. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, let's go ahead and get that area. It's kind of right tucked into this little pocket here. I wasn't going to, but yeah, that's bringing some nice colors there. And now I can bring up some highlights as well. Done. Pull the blacks down a bit. Don't want to lose the blue of the mountain, but I do want to separate them from the glacier itself. Tiny bit of noise in the sky. Let's fix that. Let's do it. Select the sky. Lightroom's like, yeah, this is what it was designed to do.
So this poem kind of automatically started off with triple rhyme. So in order to help myself remember that and kind of decide if I'm going to carry that through or not, I did go ahead and highlight that just because otherwise I will forget. That's something I tend to do anytime I'm writing poetry, just because, you get in there and you get going and things come out. and you don't necessarily always end up where you started off. So there are times where I do rhyming poems. I do a lot of free verse poetry though. But anytime I have an immediate accidental rhyme like that, especially a triple rhyme like that, yeah, we make sure to note that, because otherwise, if you don't at least do a semblance of a transition from that to something else, you're gonna have a very harsh transition, and it kind of jolts you from what the poem is actually saying. So highlighted that.
Cool. Yeah, this is a photo I don't really like. This is the thing about this photo that makes it a little bit easier for me is I do not need to crop this. This is just the framing on this. I really, really love across the board. Let me do a quick. Let's do a luminance range. Let's get our darkest areas. There we go. And this one, it's kind of cool that it's rough because I want to bring up the texture. And the texture is going to pull out the little moments from those dark areas and let them not just be blackness. Let us find the stuff in them. Yeah, the story of this photo, the story of a lot of Alaska is depth, especially a lot of these photos that we got selected for tonight. Yeah, the story of a lot of these photos just is depth, just the layers upon layers that live back there. Where's my sky mask? I want to tweak that a little bit. Got that? Yeah, cool. So I'm gonna bring the saturation down a bit. Yeah, that needs a little more. Yeah, that spot right there was giving me a little bit of an aqua color, and I can fix that coming down here, but I want to make that. You note that. Okay, so now let's look at some of these colors here. I think having the aqua low is a good idea. The blues alone. Can't bring up the saturation. Don't know if we need to. One thing I like about the glaciers, they have that kind of nice. I mean, I've kind of upped the saturation here a little bit, but I like the kind of gentle, soft blue that they have. Let's bring all the greens down, just in case there's any greens and any purples that are hanging out here. There's purple actually in that mountain. Okay, let's make use of that. Let's bring those up a bit, and then we'll bring up the luminance on them, so we can pull up bring up that area. Anything in the magenta section? No, not really. No magenta hanging on. You just scroll there?
Yeah, apparently. Sorry.
No, hey, you're getting your process. I'm sorry I interrupted. Okay, let's go back to this mask and actually do some more desaturating. Just have to get that one little section there. New mask, brush. This area right here is giving me a little bit of trouble in terms of color, and I want to desaturate that. So, bring that down. There we go. And I can bring the shadows down and give it a little more of a blacks, give it a little more of a darkness, a little more texture to it. Yeah, just let it be part of the thing. Cool. All right, so yeah, quick talk about glaciers now as ShelbyLynn finishes up her poetry. By the way, ShelbyLynn, I think this photo is what it's going to look like. So.
Okay.
Yeah, glaciers. The thing about glaciers makes them. So the way glaciers are formed is, I mean, it's the obvious answer is the right one. It's snow. Snow up in the mountains falls and falls and falls and falls and falls, and eventually compresses and compresses, and just the pressure of the snow, on top of each layer of snow pushing down, you eventually compress to ice, and then eventually turn into a glacier. The difference between an ice, so here up in the mountain here, these are snow fields. Like these aren't glaciers, these aren't ice fields, these are just snow fields, which is just snow building up. Eventually, kind of larval stage of potential glacier, probably not going to become one. This up here, you can kind of see there's more texture to this. This is an ice field, which is the snow is compressed and is now turned into ice. What makes it a glacier is that a glacier moves. A glacier will move across the landscape. It gets so big and so heavy that it eventually starts kind of moving on. It starts moving under its own weight. And so that's what makes a glacier different. Glaciers recede and approach during every year. Um, they move, and as they move, they take the land underneath them with them. I mean, imagine you're rubbing you know, like you're rubbing at least Marjorie Glacier here is about 200 feet tall. Um, so this is every spot you see here is 200 feet plus of ice before you hit ground. This is 200 feet of pressure created ice rubbing across the ground like sandpaper. That's where it's bringing all this dirt with it. Of course, it's rubbing along the sides of the mountains, so that's how you end up with dirt and with grit on top of it, because it's rubbing along the sides and it's stuff. And if landslides happen, they're coming down as well. Um, and I think I talked about this last time we did a glacier. We started touching on glacier photos, but a glacier. Think about glaciers. If you imagine mountains, there's two types of mountains you might imagine. You might imagine ones like this that are kind of spiky. Then you imagine rounded mountains. If a mountain is rounded, it means at one point in history there was a glacier on top of it. That is how rounded mountains occur. It is tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of glacial ice moving across the top of it. Glacier Bay National Park. This is actually a thing that I've been wanting to talk about. Glacier Bay National Park. I think I might have mentioned this last time. It is on the ancestral home of the Tlingit people, who the name they have for it is Sititi Gai, which literally means the bay. Some rough translation of the bay in place of the glacier. Because originally the story goes the glacier was kind of far in the distance on the other side of a field, other side of land from them, and some little girl went up with a fish and dangled and said, "Come and get it, glacier! You come and get it!" And the glacier thus started to move. The glacier eventually moved so much that it forced the Tlingit people out of their home. And then when it receded and they returned, they found Glacier Bay. They found a bay that had not been there before because the glacier had reshaped the land and created this bowl that was then filled with water. So Glacier Bay, Siti Tigai, means the bay in place of the glacier. And that's what created this.
All right, and that poem is done. You ready to hear it?
Let's hear it. Let's hear another poem.
The movement as the glacier glides and slides down the mountainside comes with a cost. It drags, clinging to dirt, all the hurt, and wishing to revert to higher on the mountain. We do the same. We hold tight to our might as we fight toward a light of longing. We must move with life and all of its strife, or be doomed to the fight of our lives.
That sounds, yeah. I feel like we're warmed up now. These are going to get better and better. That's awesome. Yay.
Glacier Made Poetry.
Glacier Bay Poetry. Fantastic. Okay. Do you want to go sort of city or do you want to go rainbow?
Let's go rainbow.
Let's go rainbow. Okay. So now we're going to Juneau, Alaska. Let's see. Yeah, going to Juneau. Also this is rainbow plus tiny cabin, which is just all the cool stuff. So Juneau, Alaska, we went whale watching while we were there. I'm just going to go to the full size for this and start off.
And when you have a sec, can you scroll for me?
Yes, coming up. There you go. All right, so yeah, so we went whale watching and kind of going around this bay, not Glacier Bay, further south, different bay. And something happened that does not often happen in Alaska. The sun came out. Juneau, on average, gets 250-something plus days of rain per year. Ketchikan gets 315 days of rain per year. When the sun came out on this whale watching tour, the naturalist we had on board yelled at us for bringing the sun. She was like, I didn't ask for this. How did this happen? You're not allowed to have this here. And when the sun came out, we got some stunning, beautiful rainbows. And I've got a couple of good shots of the you saw the complete rainbow, which is kind of wild to be able to see both ends kind of in a manageable space. But in this case, the picture ShelbyLynn and I landed on was this one where you have this tiny house and the rainbow sort of overlaid on the trees, and I'm going to do my job to pull that out, kind of almost ending at this cabin. So if you're wondering where the leprechauns are, we got them. But yeah, so this is the photo we're going to work on right now with this little cabin and this rainbow on the trees from Juneau, Alaska. So my first order of business is we're going to crank the saturation, go ahead and crank the vibrance and see which one pulls out what. Vibrance isn't doing as much. I think saturation might be the way to go here because it really is pulling out those colors. Clarity is probably but this, for once, I don't want to use the clarity slider. I think I'm going to stick with dehaze a little bit. Texture, honestly, texture maybe. Texture a little bit's a good idea, but the clarity is gonna make all those trees stand out, and I think we're gonna lose the beauty of the rainbow. So we're gonna only do a little bit of that. Actually, yeah, we'll do none of it for now. So we have the dehaze slider a little bit, just kind of bring up some of that darkness. There we go. All right. I always like to bring the blacks down. There's just so much color in Alaska, which is wild. That yeah, there's a lot. I feel like there's so much so much color in Alaska that I'm like, I'm gonna have to work on making sure we see just the rainbow. But honestly, just the colors in that thing are so cool. All right, first things first. I want to change the crop on this a little bit. I'm actually gonna kick around some ideas here. Let's pull that out. I think there's definitely too much water in this shot. I want some. I definitely want some, but I think there's too much. If I just kind of let that house sort of land on the third, or if I come to the beach, what if I come just all the way to the beach? Nah, you want to see that house. You want to see you want to see that house is on the water. I think that's important. That shoreline is really almost straight. That's a little better, I think. Yeah. Oop. Right there. I think that works. Can't decide if we want those. No, I don't think. I think I want to let those rocks kind of be less in the photo. I think this is a better crop. You see them a little bit, but they're not. The focus is the house, and I like that. And it's pretty close to those thirds. I'll take that. All right. Next things next. All right. Let's see what it does if I tell it to select the subject. Need to scroll?
Yes, please.
There you go. You're putting quotations.
This one had a unique idea pop into it.
It does. I love that. Also, I told Lightroom to select the subject, and it selected the sand and the shoreline. Like not the house, none of that, just the shoreline. But honestly, that actually really helps because I wanted to desaturate that anyway. Like that part was was drawing too much attention to itself. So we're gonna bring that down, saturation wise. Gonna push it a little bit more blue. Yeah, we'll leave it like that. That works. Cool. Okay, let's start working on individual spots. I want a linear mask here because I want to play with the ocean. And basically, like the thing about like what I'm doing right now, and this is I'm laying the groundwork because I know where a lot of this is gonna come. A lot of the work here is gonna come. There we go. Wow, just a little bit of blue there, and that is vibrant as hell now. I know I'm gonna have to reduce that in a bit, but I'm gonna start with it like this for now. Like a lot of the work in this is gonna be the colors of the rainbow and pulling them out. So I know eventually I'm going to be messing with color, and I want to start like this and then have like isolate the sections that are not the rainbow so that when I do pump up the rainbow and I end up pumping up everything else, I can then remove the rainbow stuff. Okay, so the next thing I need a couple more of those. Let's see. We're going to do it this way. I'm going to need a new linear gradient. Here's what we're going to do. Looking at that kind of ends, yeah, right about there. Nope, don't rotate. I just kind of want it. I'm looking at these trees, trying to find out where the purple ends. Something about there. And then we're going to add a linear. Do another one. It's going to be over here. Make sure that kind of sort of carving a pathway toward, following the trail of the rainbow toward this little cabin. Something like that. Maybe soften that a little bit. Cool. Yeah, I think that's going to kind of come to the right spot. The red kind of ends about there. Kind of that tree. I'll probably bring this in a little bit more. Go a little like that. Something like that. And then I'm going to do subtract with a linear gradient. I'm going to remove the stuff below the water so that I'm only affecting the trees and the land and not affecting what I do in the water, so the water can be its own separate thing. So, and I'm just going to desaturate those a bit and probably let's darken them down as well. Something like that. That's too much. We're going to do it with the shadows. It's a little aggressive. It's a start. Okay, cool. Let's start playing with the colors. first instinct is to pump everything up. I think that's a little bit of a mistake. Yellow's surprisingly not all over everything, but let's pull that up a bit. And then blues are actually an important part of that. I really like that, the way that looks. Let's play with the luminance a little bit.
Can you scroll for me?
Yep, scrolling on the phone. There you go. I don't want to brighten up these guys the treetops too much. I want to brighten up kind of overall the kind of overall section, but I don't want to brighten up the treetops too much because if I do that, we start seeing individual trees and stop seeing the rainbow itself. Like that purple, like the purple's kind of all over this thing. If I do that, we get a much brighter thing going on, which I don't really want. Yeah, the purple just kind of be its thing. Cool. All right, that's a start. Let's come back up here. This is why I've got these color masks here. We're gonna work on this guy. Bring the saturation down, kind of all the way, which will help. Kind of doing what I can to make them a little more of a uniform color palette there. Will help emphasize the rainbow a bit. It's the weird thing about rainbows. The rainbows aren't exactly, like, they're colorful, but they're not exactly brightening. They don't really add light, which is interesting. Yeah, they add color, but they don't really add light. Blues here in the water. This photo's got a really nice gentle quality to it. Let's do another mask. It's going to be focused just on the rainbow itself. Kind of like, let's lose the overlay. Let's do the overlay over color. Like this. The rainbow kind of ends there. And we're going to do intersect mask with a linear. So now we can, yeah, there we go. Kind of like that. We'll subtract again with linear. I love that this photo has this much. These nice straight lines in it. This is a pretty simple one to do. So bring this up kind of right to the center of the beach there. Increase the fade. And it goes like that. So now I can play with the saturation from just the rainbow itself. Say what?
Scroll.
scrolling again. Here we go. There you go. That is a bit much. Bring that down a bit. What's the clarity? The clarity is a bit much. Dehazing, also a bit much. There you go. A little bit of extra light. Editing in silence as we work through this. But yeah, this is coming along really, really nicely. Cool. Like I'm gilding the lily a little bit on this. Finding the best way to isolate that, isolate the color of the rainbow without taking without taking that, losing the color in the trees there. I'll say brightening that up's not bad. Like just giving the contrast out. More green in there. That's pretty good. Hey. Maria Lisa's trying to sneak out here. Oh, there she is. We trapped her with all the cameras and mics and stuff.
I completely forgot that the camera was pointing down.
Yep. Yep, we caught you.
Crawling like a maniac.
It's always the problem. You try not to draw attention to yourself and you end up doing it by accident anyway.
And there's the proof that we're in the same room.
There we go.
Hello. I also just reached out to 40 small businesses in the area.
All right. Man, we're sitting here creating art and she's over there doing actual shit.
So I can create art.
So she can create art, yes. Everything eventually moves toward art. All right, let's bring the water saturation down a bit. Also the colors down a bit. Cool. last thing I want to try. ShelbyLynn, how you doing on the poem?
This is as good as this poem's gonna get for tonight. I love the concept. I love what's going here, but it needs to be edited, and
Okay.
that's not gonna happen tonight because I'm gonna need fresh eyes.
Copy that. All right. Well, this poem is about to finish this one up. Let's see. I'm just gonna. One last thing I want to do is I'm just tweaking the house here.
So this poem, the original ideas that came about was peace surrounded by nature, man in Mother Nature's world, allowed by nature to exist if in harmony. And that created this poem. The man made a deal with a fairy by the name of nature. He asked, "Will you let a weary man rest upon this shore?" Nature held out her hand and told the man the law of this land. In this land, the man is higher than none. He lives alongside and not above, and will find the love. He shall not bring here the fight for the right, but shall coexist as one, or he'll be none. The man took pause, if only because this was not his way of life. Nature proclaimed, "There's no need to be ashamed if you cannot heed our rules." Man bowed his head as he agreed, and that night laid upon his bed with a vow to protect nature and help her spread to the men who fight. They'd make a world of nature and man as equals in peace.
Love it. I love that. I love that so much.
I'm glad.
I love. Yeah, no, poetry with a little bit of a story to it is such a thing. I like. I'm a sucker for folklore. I'm a sucker for folklore and myth and legend, and that really.
This just feels like that's what this is.
Yeah.
And the photo goes along with that beautifully.
I'm gonna do one last thing, just based on that. I want to give this a little bit more of a haze to it. So we're just gonna take the whole thing that's not, basically everything that's not the water. We're gonna just pull the dehazing back a bit. Like just a couple of notches, just like that. There we go. Also, let's see. Let's try putting a little bit of a vignette on this one. Feather. So yeah, it's a little bit of a, yeah, there we go. That looks fantastic. All right. You happy?
I'm happy. Ready
We're
for
happy.
the next one.
All right. Where do you want to go? Do you want to do Skagway? You want to do Vancouver? You want to do mountains? You want to do animals? Where are you at?
Can I pick one?
Pick one.
Animals.
You can't pick animals.
Why?
Because we got one animal photo, and that's.
I'm ready for it if we're
ready for
it.
All right, here we go. We got one animal photo, and it is this one, which is one of my favorite photos I've ever taken. We have a bald eagle on an iceberg in Glacier Bay National Park.
So this photo has been screaming at me for 2 days now.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. This poem is gonna be a fun one.
Yeah. There's so much to say about this one, so this is what we're gonna work on.
Can you scroll for me?
Yep, coming up. Eagle on the iceberg. Another photo that I think I did a pretty good job framing up on its own, so it doesn't need a whole lot. A lot of cropping necessarily. What I want to do is impart as much loneliness as I can, I think, with this photo. This photo is just, yeah. Yeah, this photo is good. Dehazing's the wrong thing. Actually, probably dehazing. Coming back on the dehazing a little bit, just upping the colors. Texture's good. We'll come back to the texture in a sec. We're gonna do that in a minute. Let's bring the whites down. I want to get the texture of the iceberg in there.
If I put my feet up here, will I be in the shot?
What, over there? No, I think you're fine. Just don't kick the mic.
I'm like a foot away from it.
Huh?
Only a foot away from it.
Yeah, then you're fine. All right. This is gonna be about saturation and color, because this is the framing on this. I think is just almost perfect. And it's funny. Usually, if you think, I want to impart isolation, my thought would be to kind of do something like this. Just kind of have the eagle there, but for some reason, it feels more isolating to have a little more of a little more room around, or a little less room around him. Okay. So let's I want to do some masks real quick. All right, select the subject. This one has a subject. We might be able to see this. Let's see. All right, that's actually not. That's pretty good actually for what I was looking for. Cool. So we're gonna invert that, and then we're going to erase. Actually, yeah, there's no point doing it this way. Let's go back to this. Let's invert again. Let's add the brush. Just get a little more of the iceberg in there. Not the whole thing. This could be a little more gentle. The iceberg is actually pretty well done in terms of color and work on it. It gave the highlights gave me a lot of nice texture there. This was cool because a couple things are cool about this. One,
Can you scroll?
say what? Scrolling in, yes, coming up. There you go. One, we're telling this this guy was probably, I don't know, I want to say 20 feet from the ship we were on. Like,
That's it?
yeah, no, he was floating real close to the ship. Yeah, not far away at all, which is why these shots look as good as they do. We got that mask. Let's do another one with color, just the water, which shouldn't have a problem getting me just the.
Also, on this poem, I skipped all of my normal first steps because it's been screaming at me.
Yeah, this one you've been feeling. But yeah, so done. Cool. So he was very close to us, and it was very fun to see him. Apparently, I took a bunch of shots of him, but I didn't keep watching after he kind of got out of my range. He eventually took off and flew away off the iceberg. My brother, who was standing next to me, apparently followed him with binoculars, and he flew over to a different iceberg that had a seal on it, and landed on there and squawked at the seal till the seal jumped off. So, if we're continuing the inherent and the implicit America metaphor here, yeah, that's on brand. Hi, I'm an important thing with a big white head. Let me take your land, brown thing.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not avoiding commentary here. This is a symbol of a loud, belligerent country that is sitting on a piece of land that is currently shrinking.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I got no qualms about how like ShelbyLynn and I were looking through this picture of this one, and we liked the one where he's looking away for specific reasons. Also, let's talk about the color of the water in Glacier Bay. The cool thing about Glacier Bay's water is that a good chunk of it, and the majority of the water that's on kind of sitting on top. Like, water, obviously, density has layers. If you've ever seen a B-52 drink, you know this. Or I guess a tequila sunrise too. But yeah, the water in Glacier Bay is kind of half, like underneath is cooler salt water from the sea, and on top is more is freshwater glacial melt. Of course, it's mixing, so it's not purely fresh and then purely salt. But that's the reason you get this beautiful kind of light blue water in Glacier Bay National Park is because of that. Is because it's glacial melt freshwater kind of on top. Yellow's not really much to the oranges, right? Yeah. Let's come in close and work on this eagle. He's a little further.
Oh, I need you to scroll.
Oh, yep, we'll scroll here. There we go.
Thank you.
Of course. Gotta bring up the colors on him. The reds are in his feathers, so we're gonna bring that up a little bit. Let's make him stand out a bit. I want to bring up the ratcheting the luminance back and forth isn't doing a whole lot on him. We're gonna do a specific thing for him in a second, but for now, yeah, actually, I think with the point we're gonna try to get him as a separate entity here. What did I do with texture? Did I do anything with texture up here yet? Nothing actually. Did nothing with texture. What happens if I pull the texture up? That's pretty good, actually. No, I'm just gonna do that on this photo across the board. There we go. Come on. Yeah, texture all the way up. I think this is a photo that deserves that depth. Got a little bit of noise, not too much of an issue. I'll pull it down a little bit to reduce that. Gonna go to my masks here. Mask of the water, and we're gonna up the noise reduction so that we can help clear out the noise over there, which is awesome. All right, now let's do some work on this eagle specifically. Do a brush. Let's see. I want to zoom in more. We're going to zoom in to about 300 pixelated because we're 300% zoomed in. I want to brighten up his eyes. Let's crank the flow back up on that. Make it Lightroom. Get it together. There we go. Flow all the way up. Let's actually delete the brush there. Do this again. Brush. There we go. Let's scroll a little bit for you.
Okay.
I think she's hit a stroke of inspiration.
This is why you're here.
Brownie points if you know where that's from. Well, what that's a play on.
Work with me, Eagle. What about his eye here?
I apologize if my writing is no longer legible.
Well, the fun about this creative process is just you really let it fly. It looks pretty good. Dehaze his eye, make it really dark, or brighten it up like this. Just go white, make it white.
That's not a letter.
Cool. Now what I'm going to do, now that I've done that, is I'm going to take the flow, drop it really low, and just work on the area around his eye. Just kind of do kind of a softer version of what I just did on the rest of it. Done. So there, now that sticks out really nicely. Back down here to luminance. Bring up the reds a bit. Oh, purple on that ice flow. Let's bring that up and make a thing of it. Let's scroll for you. So bald eagles are one of the hugely, like, one of the most important, like, species up in Alaska. You see them all over the place. It's fun. It's my tour guide said it's almost like, you know, you look in the trees and kind of look like you're trying to look for golf balls and just look for the white heads up there. Also, interesting bald eagle fact. Most people don't know this. Bald eagles do not get their like bald eagle heads. Their heads don't turn white until they're fully mature. So a lot of times you will see, people will see what they think are golden eagles with fully brown bodies, which are actually just juvenile bald eagles. People don't catch it. Cool.
I'm gonna get ready for bed.
Okay. Everyone say goodnight to Maria and Lisa.
Good night, Maria Lisa.
Good night.
Have fun watching these geniuses at work.
Aw, thank you. And if you get the chance, donate to the Heather's GoFundMe. We rely on support like that to keep making cool art.
And also check us out on Insta and TikTok. TikTok is at Long Story Short
Theater.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, Long Story Short Theater on TikTok. Check us out there.
Good night.
You can see some of our cool actors doing some of their acting, some of their singing, and kind of getting in each other's faces, which is
Including me.
in the best way. Yep. So, all right. One other thing I want to do. ShelbyLynn, how are you doing?
We're good.
We're good. All right. Take a little brush.
This is gonna need edits
There you go.
tomorrow, but we're good for now.
Fair enough.
The words hit the page very hard. Like belly flopped from 150 feet in the air hit the page.
I love hearing that. One quick thing I want to do, let me color. Let me just get this real specific here. I just want that reflection.
You ready to hear this one?
Not quite. I'm almost
Okay.
done. Cool. So we'll do that. Then we're going to subtract with the brush. We're going to erase up flow back up to usable. Erase all that. We're going to erase all this. Just want that bird's reflection to be enhanced a little bit. So everything up here doesn't matter. All of this doesn't matter. Yeah, get rid of that stuff. Get rid of that. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. We have the clarity. Yeah, I want to enhance that reflection as much as I can. That's supposed to better that texture. Cool. All right. Done. That's the bald eagle on the ice floe. Let's hear the poem.
The man picked me, the eagle, to be their symbol, to represent the free and honesty, and yet I've been placed in a cage. They turned their eye, blind as it might be, and choose not to see. I crossed their path to say, this is not your day, turn away. And yet they held on. They pushed. This land meant to be free shall never truly be. For the men who chose me have eyes that are blind, hands shackled to their belief, and no desire to give relief. How is this what the land of the free became? They chose me and put me in a cage, just as they did you. You have been caged, blinded, shackled, and held hostage in the land of the free. I was meant to represent honesty, in a land where honesty is rotten apples coated in the sickly sweet crunch of caramel. They said they'd bring prosperity, yet took it from you and me. Such is the land of the free.
Yeah, no,
Thank
that's a standing ovation on that one. That's wow.
I
Yeah.
liked that line about the apple.
I did
candy
too!
apple. That was really smart.
All
And that
right.
makes me excited for you to come to rehearsal.
Yes. Yeah. If anyone interested in the Heather's thing, yeah, we said ShelbyLynn's going to be coming to rehearsal and writing poems about the cast and about that production. So that's another cool thing, and this is the kind of stuff she's going to be bringing. So so exciting. All right.
It's this kind of poetry where it's like there is no choice what you are writing. It is this or it is nothing. That's where it gets amazing and it gets so fun, and it's just like, this is it. This is why I'm a poet.
There we go. Pure creation happening over there on that couch.
Yay!
All right. And Stephanie is giving us applause. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
All right. Where do we want to go next? Do we want Vancouver? Do we want more mountains? Do we want some kind of mix of like humans and mountains? I think that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Let's go there.
All right. So we're gonna click through some options. We got this one, which I like. This is Skagway. We got the power lines in the mountains in the same shot. We got this one, also Skagway, mountains with shipping containers. And we got these two from Vancouver, which are the mountains with the city in the foreground. Which one's speaking to you?
Surprise me.
No, don't tell me that. I'm asking choices.
Which one speaks to you right now?
Let's do this power lines one. This one I've been
I had a feeling that's what you were
this one
gonna
a little bit.
choose.
Work on this. What?
I had a feeling that's what you were gonna choose.
Yeah, but I think since I saw this one last night, we were picking them out. This one kind of spoke to me.
Can you scroll for me?
Yep, coming right up. Cool. Give me one sec, guys. I'm going to put my headset down. I'm going to make my desk stand up, and I'm going to check on the camera batteries. So ShelbyLynn can look at the photo and see just kind of start brainstorming this one. Desk up. And me up higher. And I'm back.
How's the battery doing?
We're about 50%. That's not bad at all.
Okay.
Yeah, 50%. We're done. We're 4 photos in. We figured we'd probably cap this around 8, depending how much we feel. So yeah. All right. So let's look at this one.
And we're back to the normal way of how I do these photo poems with the outlines and all that. So we'll see where this one goes.
All right. Ooh, yeah. No. Okay. So yeah, this one's got that. The layers in this one, I love. Like part of me wants to crop this up and kind of actually, I think cropping it to there, I still keep everything I want to keep. You can bring it down a little bit. kind of like there's kind of a theme going on here with a lot of nature usurped or supplanted by human action and human meddling, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Well, I don't think it's a great thing as a concept, but I think it's a good thing that there's kind of a theme going through these photos.
And this is your reminder: plant a tree, hug a
Yes.
tree, enjoy the tree.
Absolutely, yes. This is one of the crazy things about we were on this expedition we went on. We had John Sheerance, who's a naturalist and a teacher up in Alaska, with our group the entire time, and just like constantly teaching us this stuff. And we talked a bit about climate change and talked about kind of what what exists, what the effects of climate change are specifically in Alaska. And that's one of the reasons, the one thing I can talk about glaciers real quick and give ShelbyLynn a chance to do her brainstorming. And we talked about this last time, I think, on stream. The glaciers collapsing, or not collapsing, but like the pieces of the glacier falling off into the water, is actually, believe it or not a sign of global warming. And I'm not saying global warming is not happening. Global warming is 1,000% happening, and the majority of it is the result of human action right now. And we are doing a piss poor job of fixing it. And there's tons and tons of evidence and signs that global warming is happening. Ice falling off glaciers is not one of them. Ice falling off glaciers is actually it's a natural evolution of glaciers. It's called calving, and that's how we get icebergs. And icebergs are a habitat for harbor seals, and otters use them, and that's an essential part of the ecosystem. The sign of global warming and climate change that's related to glaciers is the fact that the glaciers are receding further than they're advancing every year. And so retreating further than they're advancing. So you've got these glaciers that used to come forward substantially are now they're coming back less, or coming forward less and less. And that's a sign that these glaciers overall are shrinking, which is not good. That's a thing. But so the theme of human effect on Alaska and on nature was kind of prevalent in our minds through a lot of this trip. And one of the things, the lines that always sticks out to me, that we discussed a little bit on the trip, not so much in lecture but in group, was that we look at this amazing nature and we look at the glaciers and the eagles and the mountains and all of and the thing is, and like that little cabin with the rainbow, and for the most part, a capitalist looking to make money looks at all of that and says that in its current state is worthless. And this photo kind of makes me think of that. That just, we looked at this mountain and said, yeah, but what if we had power? What if we had electricity to it? What if we put something in front? Not that we shouldn't have electricity, but that the idea that one of these things does not belong, and it's the thing that seems to take up most of the screen. Okay, so let's pull up some. I got a couple different ideas for how to do this photo. I'm actually going to do this photo two different ways that are kind of mirrors to each other. So, yeah, with that crop and that constraint as is, bring up the texture a bit. Yeah, let's bring up the texture for this one. Cool. Let me do all the edits that I want to do to the whole thing, and then I will come back and start tweaking color, because color is the thing that I'm going to use to make these, to mirror these guys. That's pretty good.
Can you scroll for me?
Yes, scroll down on the poem. There we go. This poem brought to you by the letter W.
And we have one poem done.
Wait, you're already a poem in?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
To be fair, it's a haiku, so.
I don't know. I feel like when I was when I was taking tests in school, and the teacher would be like, "Okay, we've already got 2 people finished. You guys gotta hurry." I was, especially in essays, I was always the kid who was standing there after the bell rang, and the teacher standing next to my desk being like, "You have to give it to me."
Yeah, that wasn't me.
I mean, that wasn't you.
I was one of the first.
Yeah, but you were also the one who wrote 10 pages more than was expected.
Yes, absolutely, every time.
It's also worth noting ShelbyLynn is a teacher, so
yes,
she's become the very thing she swore to destroy. Okay, so yeah, that crop I think is good. I've got the sky kind of selected as a separate mask. If I tell it to select subject, what is it going to give me? It might actually give me the telephone pole, which would be really nice. Or it's going to give me just some kind of mess of this whole thing. Okay. Yeah, we're not going to use that. I don't really need the bottom of the telephone pole. Okay. Might have to deal with like a color range, but we'll come back to that. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a virtual copy. There we go. Cool. So now we're going to work on two different versions of this, starting here, where we started with here. We're starting with color. We're done with that. And we're going to bring up the colors of the telephone pole. And it's kind of nice that they are such starkly different colors to the background. This is going to be the hugely important thing where we that. Good. Then we can take our greens and our aquas and our blues and our purples, desaturate and down. That's coming along nicely. I don't want to completely remove them, but I do want things. I kind of want continuity with the saturation, with the desaturating, so it all kind of feels more or less equally desaturated. And then I want discontinuity with the luminance stuff so that we still have some texture going on back there. I have to work on that bottom there. Cool. All right. So now I can do another select sky. This actually works really well. Select the sky. We can invert this. Oh, it actually does have that. That's interesting. Okay, cool. Bring up the texture. Do a new mask with a brush. Get this area down here. And we're going to desaturate it. Cool. Now we're going to do a new mask color range. Should be able to get, yeah, a lot of this area all kind of together. Come up here. Get it like that, and then I can select this area down here. This area as well. This area here. There we go. Then subtract with brush. Subtract the sky and the power lines and all the stuff that's up here. Oh, this is a shot from Skagway, which was one of my favorite stops on the trip because it was. I mean, I'm a sucker for like small towns with weird histories, and Skagway has a like a permanent resident population of 800 people, with a daily tourist intake of about 12,000. Skagway, again, though the White Pass train shot that we edited at first, that train leaves from Skagway and comes back to Skagway. All right, cool. So we've got selected the mountains area. So now I can bring these guys down and kind of bring up some darkness. I can add a little more texture to them. Not that I really need to. The texture is pretty good. I want just very careful control of that saturation.
So this poem that I'm working on, my original thought was to make it into a sonnet format.
Okay.
So the interesting thing with sonnets is sonnets aren't meant to be about destruction by man.
Valid.
The thematic way that sonnets are meant to be written is more of a loving way, of like a nurturing way, of that kind of relationship between things. it can also be more of a funny thing, but it's most commonly written as more of a loving, nurturing, caring type of poem. So my original thought was subvert expectation, sonnet about destruction. But this first stanza is just perfect as is.
Awesome.
So I think instead of doing a 5 stanza sonnet, I'm going to just leave it as a 1 stanza poem with the same general structure that the first stanza of a sonnet would be.
Cool. I like that. That's just the what the like the 14 syllables and the rhyming and the
It's 10.
it's 14 lines of 10 syllables. Sorry,
Yes.
right? It's right. It's iambic pentameter, so it's yeah, it's 5 and 5. Or yeah, it's
Yes.
5 iambs.
And I will probably edit this one to be different line amounts. Instead of doing 4 lines, I'm probably going to switch it and do 8 lines for this poem. But it's just, like, this is just, like, perfect. So I feel like adding more to this poem would lower the perfection of it. So we're just going to leave that as is.
Nice.
And I'm done.
All right. Beat me. I'm almost done with this one. It's starting to come along nicely. Let's see.
I get to sit back and watch you edit now.
Do it.
So whenever I write poetry, I almost never get it perfect on the first try. There's always edits, there's always things to be changed and fixed and rewritten a little bit. But with this poem, I'm going to show you one thing that I very commonly do whenever it can be that I start with one format and end up switching it. But like for this one, obviously we don't want to leave it as a 4-line poem. We want to kind of split it up just because of the way it's going to be read. Just even reading it in my head, I can tell that there's spots in these individual lines that need to be split. So one thing that I very commonly do when that's the case is I just take a different color, and where I know I need a different space, I just slash it. And that way I know whenever I go back and rewrite this, type this up, however I end up doing it, or if I read it, which I will be in a few minutes, I know that's where that line ends, so there's going to be a slight shift or pause there. So on that first line, it's going to be after the word high. On the second line, it's going to be after above. On the third line, after the word rain. And then on the fourth line, after the word man. So that's just a really easy way for me to know whenever I go back to type this up, or in a minute when I read it, that's where that line is going to more than likely officially end. There might be some tweaks and edits down the line, but that's kind of where that's going to end up being. So that'll end up being an 8-line poem.
That is awesome. And the last thing I'm doing is I'm just kind of adjusting the. There we go. Sort of playing with the colors of the mountains here.
Another thing, you might have noticed, whenever I'm writing poetry, I almost never include punctuation on a first draft. Any punctuation that I include in a first draft is like, this has to be here. It has to have a question mark here, comma here, whatever, however it needs to be. But that's just my way of saying, this is exactly where this has to be. Everything else is flexible. So there's a couple of things that are just like hard, strict things for me like that whenever it comes to writing poetry, and that's just one of them. Also, interestingly enough, the haiku that I wrote first could be almost an introduction to the second poem. They could be combined. It would take a little bit of tweaking, but they could be combined to be one poem altogether instead of 2 separate ones. That might be something to play with.
Almost got it. right, so now we've got these two photos. This one with the colors, the mountains, and this one with where the mountains are desaturated. Tiny bit too much. Let's bring the blues a little more up. There we go. Where the mountains and stuff are desaturated, and the telephone pole kind of stands out. I'm probably what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a quick. I'm going to do a second version, a quick second version. We're going to select all. That's correction. I'm just going to check everything here, and we're going to synchronize. Place. That should make us a second copy of this. There we go. And now I can take this one, come back down in here, can bring these colors back up. And do a photo that kind of balances them out. If I bring the yellows down. Kind of finding a balance here as a set of three. So I'm gonna bring up now that I've actually done more with purples. Let's bring up the purples a little more. I'm gonna bring up the light on the purple. There we go. Okay, let's shift our greens a little more toward yellow. Let's bring the yellows. The yellows are fine. Shift the aquas a little more to that. There we go. Cool. All right, ShelbyLynn, poem us.
So I'm gonna read this as one poem instead of two separate ones. Let me know what you think.
Here we go.
Who holds the power? Is power held by the man, or does nature reign? They reach high into the aching sky. The mountains reign above, the man below. The power of nature's reign tells us why the destruction of man must be shown.
I like that.
I kind of like it better as one.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like it fits very, very well together as one.
It flows very well as one. It really does. All right.
What's next?
What is next? I'm kind of feeling like we should get away from people for a bit.
Okay.
So, let's see. We've got this one. Some mountains and land in Glacier Bay.
Mm-hmm.
We've got this close up on the glacier.
Mm.
We've got this one, which we know we both love. And in a similar vein, we got this one, which has the tiny cabin as well.
Let's do the mountain and the trees.
This one, the mountain and trees and trees and trees.
And trees and trees and trees.
All right, this is what we're going to work on next. This is our next poem. Next photo and poem.
Poem.
Poem. That's actually, why do we call this whole thing that? Poetry.
Poems.
Poetry. All right, so the crop on this one's pretty easy. If I go to 4x5, open it up a bit. Yeah, crop on that looks pretty good. Finding that balance there. Lean up a little. I kind of like having a little headroom there and having the sky be a part of this. All right, so we're gonna dehaze.
Whoa.
Makes a difference, doesn't it? So we're gonna do that in layers.
Oh, can you scroll?
Yep, coming right up.
I completely forgot about scrolling.
You're getting lost in the poetry. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, this is coming out very noisy, so we're gonna work on that. Let me adjust my horizon line there. Closer to that, I think. There we go. So this is another one from Skagway. This is just the mountains back there. Just I am absolutely dying to find a place where I can live where I can actually see mountains like this every day. Alright, got the sky there. I'm going to extend this a little bit with a brush. Bring the flow really low. Just kind of soften that edge a little bit. Yeah, cool. So now I can choose the texture. Kind of lean into the hauntingness of the mountain. Let's bring up our highlights. We get those whites up in there. We're going to bring down our shadows.
I also love how through all of these poems that have had the mountains so far, we have kind of leaned into the mountains are like the king of all nature and all humanity and all life. And I just kind of like that because it's like when you look at these photos and you see these mountains literally like reaching for the sky.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of how it feels. It feels like you're looking at Purple Mountain Majesty. Your Majesty, thank you.
I desperately one day dream of taking a photo where that really conveys the size and the scope of what it looks like to look up at these mountains. Like, these are a decent imitation, but they're not where they need to be yet for me to be happy, me to feel like yeah, we're conveying it. But I'm loving these photos. Pretty good in terms of. Yeah, let's keep the navigator there. Let's get this up. A little noisy, not too much, not enough to worry me yet. All right, let's come on down and start working on color. Obviously, green's the big one here, and I'm going to push my yellows more toward green because I want to lean into the greens. I'm probably going to darken them down a little bit. Bring the yellows up a little bit. Yeah, that's again with I say this a lot with color saturation. You want to kind of keep things. If you're going to adjust stuff, you want to kind of adjust them so they're all sort of smooth. So otherwise you get some really weird discontinuity. With luminance, I kind of like to go the other direction, so you get darker and brighter patches and gives you more contrast. So we know for a fact there's some blue and purple hanging out in this thing that we're going to lean into, just not that heavily. Actually, the more I think about this, the more this photo kind of benefits from being a little monochromatic. I think we're going to stick with what we have.
Oh, can you scroll for me, please?
Scrolling down. There you go. I'm actually going to say I'm super excited to watch this live stream back so I can see everything you were writing.
And editing as I go as well.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, when you've watched me do this where I sit here and just sort of like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, like...
There have been a couple of times where I've written a line like 3 different times and erased it every time and then ended up with a 4th line that was completely different.
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense. Bring up the luminosity a little bit so we can get rid of some of this noise. That's better. I'm going to play with the Instagram panel down here, which is the kind of overall do a thing to the photo and kind of leans into the color wheel and pulls out and kind of pushes your like, are we going, like orange and teals or pinks and greens, whatever else. Yeah, there's your Instagram look that everybody does. But that's actually not too bad if I bring this back a bit. Of course, I can adjust the saturation of these certain colors. Yeah, something about this, I like this being more monochromatic. I really do. Let me contrast up a bit. Question is this. Mask here. Let's get another one. I want to have something kind of stretching over the whole course of the photo, kind of up into the this final bit. I'm going to up the texture. Bring down the black. Now we're going to bring down the noise reduction because we love doing that. I find noise is less important when you're doing photos like this where you have that depth. Cool. Let's do a new mask. Actually, let's just do a mask 2, duplicate, and the second one I can then just do a 180-degree flip on. Theoretically. Bring the texture down. Push this one up a little more so it's a little more based on the what's up there. Texture down, bring the blacks down a bit. Kind of darken up that mountain. Push it a little more toward green. It's a lot more toward green, it's more than I need to go. That's a bit much.
That's not a word.
Huh?
I went to write compassion, but I forgot the P, so it was commission.
Slightly different word. Well, I just tried to like add a little more blue, and I turned the mountain. I did that to the mountain, so bit of an aggressive change. Not exactly ideal. A little more blue is not a bad idea. Just something like that. Just gentle, a little bit of blue. Something like that. I think that looks good. Cool. Gives a little more texture, a little bit more what's going on. I can pull the dehaze up a little bit. There we go. Mountain shrouded in mystery and in fog. I like that a lot. Excellent. Mark it. ShelbyLynn, how you doing?
We're done. Just
Oh,
finished.
Right on time. Beautiful. All right. Shall we hear another poem? I think we should. ShelbyLynn, tell us.
She is the haunting mountain majesty. She holds the power, grace, and honor that man's never known. She, the mountain majesty, holds higher the standard of life and looks down upon man's strife. She, the haunting mountain, shrouds herself in the majestic fog, yet stands tall above it all. She, the haunting majesty, shows us compassion our rulers never have and doesn't lie by omission. She is our haunting mountain, her majesty.
There we go. I love that. I love making it like making the mountains feminine and female. Like I like that a lot.
Also, if you're wondering, guys, the OneNote is a little bit behind, so this is done. That's still catching up a little bit.
It's catching up a little bit. You're watching a poem. It's being created entirely in real time. This is completely of its own accord. All right. So we are coming along nicely. What do you think? Should we do? How many do we have? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 6 so far. Do you want to do like mountains in Glacier Bay? Do you want to do the train shot?
Let's do the train shot.
Train. Twisted Nature. Got to do one of the shots with me tilting my camera lens to bizarre angles. So here we go. We're gonna work on this one. Once again, a shot of.
Could you scroll past where it's currently at?
Yes.
It's gonna need to be by a little bit.
That's as far as it's gonna let me go because that's where it thinks the bottom of the image is.
Okay.
So I'll let you know as it builds.
Yeah, it's just a little behind there.
Yeah, it'll get there. All right. So this is a shot. Once again, White Pass train, kind of coming around a corner. Um, like we said, Yukon Gold Rush, train going up the mountain, or Yukon Gold Rush people left the U.S., took their trip used mostly at Seattle, sometimes at Vancouver, obviously Canada, from several places on the West Coast. After we're talking late 1800s, we're talking at least a recession, if not a full depression, and a bunch of guys who were up in the Yukon arrive in Seattle with bags of gold bigger than they were. The next day, thousands of people are getting on boats, heading back up to the Yukon to try to make it up and make their fortune. Now, the thing is, first of all, fun fact about the White Pass Trail is it's not if you've just gotten to the area that eventually became Skagway, the White Pass Trail didn't exist. There was another trail over the Chilkat Mountains that had been used by the First Nations people who lived there. But that one was a little bit longer, not as steep, not as treacherous. And naturally, the white people got there and said, no, I got to get over the mountain real fast. I got to get that gold. I'm gonna make my own much more treacherous trail that is a mile and a half shorter. So that's how, and that is the path that became the White Pass. White guy's gonna white guy. So with that, that's how this started. Now the funny thing is, because man, most of these people coming up here were not prepared to do what they were about to do. Is a lot of them ended up, so people would cross over into Canada, and then not prepared for the climate, not prepared for the elevation, not prepared for the strenuousness of living like that on your own, started dying in droves. They were very bad at this. And when that happened, the Canadian government decided, okay, we need to try to prevent this because people are crossing into our country and then just kind of kicking the bucket. So Canada set up a checkpoint at the top of the pass, right where you cross into Canada, and said, all right, if you want to come across here to go looking for gold, you have to have the following things. And they had a list, and this list amounted to 2,000 pounds of stuff, literally a ton of stuff. That's not an exaggeration. It was literally 2,000 pounds. And that's actually 2,000 pounds is a low estimate depending on certain things people brought. It was clothing of various types, wet weather, clothing that was waterproof, clothing that was heavy, that could handle the cold, that could handle the sun, so on and so forth, as well as being, it was that plus various tools, pots, pans, picks, shovels, etc. And that amounted for a ton of it. And the second ton was food for a year. And you had to make sure you had food for a year before they let you into Canada and let you cross the mountains. If you look up pictures of the Yukon Gold Rush, what you will probably find are photos of shots of this, shot looking up a mountain with what looks like a black line of ants going up the mountain, and those are people, because no one is carrying 2,000 pounds of stuff up in one trip.
That would be very impressive, though.
It would be. It'd be awesome. That's where you bring in the mountain, literally the Game of Thrones mountain, to tackle the mountain. But short of being that dude, you're not carrying that much stuff up a mountain. So, people were taking trips. So basically, you would get all your stuff off of a boat, and you would, piece by piece, lug it up the trail. You'd get to base camp, or not base camp. You'd get to the spot, right at the last leg of the pass where you cross into Canada, and then you would take 20 to 30 trips carrying all of this stuff up that pass, literally waiting in line. You would carry stuff up that pass until you would get to the top. You'd be allowed to cross into Canada, and then you've got to take all that 2,000 pounds of stuff and make a boat, get all that stuff in the boat, make sure the boat can hold all that stuff. And then you are taking that boat up very treacherous waters toward Dawson City, and then you get there to find out that all the land that you thought you were gonna strike it rich and find gold on has already been settled by people long before you even heard about the idea of coming up here. So the estimate is that of the give or take 100,000 people who started off uh, heading up in the Yukon to try and find gold, 100,000 people left, 30 to 40,000 died, and around 400 people made enough money so that we might say they got rich. And of those 400, not like 100,000 people down to 400, period, end of sentence. Out of those 400, literally a handful. We're talking less than 10, probably substantially less than like 20. Made enough money to pass on to another generation. So that's the story and this railroad is kind of, eventually they did make roads. The whole city of Skagway, town of Skagway thing of Skagway exists because people, it was the stopping point to get up the mountain, so it came into existence from that. And yeah, this railroad was built after the fact, but this railroad goes up that trip. It goes up that pass. I have a picture which when I start editing the photos, doing a full photo session, working on just the photos from Skagway and from this train ride, I will show. I've got a photo. It's not a photo to edit, but it's a photo just to look at. That shows, like, you can see the original trail that these people walked is still there. It's across a little creek, and you can see like how small it is, and there's people just climbing up this thing. So yeah, that's the story of the White Pass Trail. How you doing?
We're doing.
We're doing?
You can go on another story.
We like to be okay. I can keep talking. All right. Well, I'm going to crop this a little bit more. Get a little more of that train in there. Make shot a little more about the train. If I rotate this, yeah, it's better this way. I like it like this. Maybe I should be used to it. But yeah. How far behind is OneNote, by the way?
Pretty.
Okay. So
it hasn't been this far behind the whole time.
No, I think we're I think as we work on this, the longer we go on the stream, we're getting a little bit more of a lag. Not necessarily a bad thing, just a thing that's happening. All right, let's do let me try selecting the subject. This photo doesn't need there's not a whole lot to do with it kind of individually. It's kind of a good like across the board photo. That's interesting. All right, let's not do that. Let's go the other direction. Let's do a color range. Let's get some greens in there. There we go. Get this green. Let's get that brighter green. Let's bring that up. Get some of that. Get some of this. That's pretty good. Then we're going to subtract brush. We're going to subtract more of the train here. My flow is still way too low. Let's bring that up. Let's clear that out.
To give you an idea, what's on the OneNote right now is still me describing the photo.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
I'm a little bit ways down there, so.
I glanced over. I was like, I figured you'd be beyond just the photo description at this point. Your brain works faster than that. Your brain works faster than mine.
I don't know about that.
All right, cool. So now I can up the texture of the world around us. We can also play with the actual color of it specifically. Let's go back down here to colors. Yeah, push that one toward those greens, and then bring those greens down a bit. Bring up the colors a little bit on the fireweed down there. Come back here. So fireweed are these little plants down here, which are a native symbol to Alaska. Actually, if you were watching the stream the other night, you probably saw me trying out some fireweed tea, which was pretty good. It had a good, strong, earthy black tea kind of flavor to it that I think needs Need to treat it more like a green tea in future, but it was pretty good. Yeah, let's fill in that space a little bit. Cool. I'm actually curious if black and white. Nah, this photo's better in color. Cool. I think the only thing I want to do now is let's do another color. Let's do another mask. Let's do a luminance range on this one. Let's try to get this. So I get this train here. Let's move the brights down. It's kind of the darkest areas here. There we go. We'll subtract with the brush.
Okay, done.
She's done, yay! I'm almost done.
So I'm done with the poem. OneNote has not even done my concept ideas yet.
Yeah, OneNote's a little behind on us there.
Just a little bit.
Yeah,
Be patient with OneNote. It's struggling.
It is, of course. It's a Microsoft product. We'll be nice to it.
It's trying to keep up with both of us at once.
That's true. Yeah, no, we're kind of flying through this. So I just want to take this and brighten up the train a little bit here.
I mean, this is number 7, right?
Believe so. Yep.
7 poems in 2 hours.
7 poems in 2 hours is pretty great. That's wow. That's actually impressing the hell out of me. All right, we're gonna bring the shadows up. The texture. Maybe the black's a bit much. Yeah, something like that gets the train a little more obvious. Okay, read us a poem, ShelbyLynn.
We snake through the range, surrounded by the stunning green of nature. She wraps around us, holding us in her embrace, but her protective love is not for us. She holds to the life that's not mine. We should long for her gracious embrace, yet she stopped holding us long ago. Did she let us go when we found guns, or did she release us when we tore down the lives of forests? Maybe she chose to hold to the lives of nature when we, humanity, decided we were better. In this moment, snaking through the range, surrounded by the stunning green, may be the closest that I'll ever be.
I love that. I say that at all these films. I really do love that one.
I'm glad.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So how you feeling? Where you at right now?
I am headed towards the end of my poetic energy for the night.
All
I
right.
might have one more in me.
One more poem. All right. So let's see what we got. Let's see what we want to do. Let's do this. So I'm just adjusting this one. A little too much blue. There we go. That's better. Okay. So here are some of our options. We got this glacier close up. We got this guy with the mountains and the stuff in the background. We have this one with a mountain and the little cabin there. It's okay. We got this one. We've kind of done a bunch of mountains with people in front. So it's also kind of why I'm leaving away from the Vancouver one. So I do like this one a lot.
Let's do the glacier.
Do the glacier? Okay. Sounds good. Let's do a glacier photo. Might be the one we wrap up the night with. I might edit the mountain one real fast after this because I do like that one a lot. But let's work on this glacier photo. All right. The thing I love about this photo is you can kind of, no matter how I rotate it, it looks cool any way.
Oh.
Yeah, something about that one kind of speaks to me. You like that?
I'm like sitting here turning my head. Yes, that one's very good.
All right, so we'll go with this one. Cool. Start working.
Also, my notes on this one, very close-up glacier with lines.
It's got a lot of lines in it.
There's
it really
not
does.
a lot of description you can do other than that. It's got blue, it's got some brownish, blackish colors, it's got white. What else can you say to describe that one?
Yeah, this one's another one that's just depth and color. Lights from there, put the shadows back where they were. There we go. Let's come down. This one's all by color. about this one is there's even with the like in that dirt, even that dirt that's like as I'm pulling out the colors that it's not so much going to black, it's going to purple.
That was my ankle.
That's impressive and terrifying. I'm gonna check your camera battery real quick. Still good. Still working. Okay, we're back. A little bit of noise there, really not much. This photo with this depth is great. Did OneNote finally give up? It might have. No, it's still slowly loading. It's just way behind. I guess this one you have to wait and wait in suspense and see what ShelbyLynn comes up with. Whites down just a little bit. Let's do
So
luminance range.
this poem is kind of unique in the fact that the format that I'm writing right now is more than likely going to stick through period regardless to the final product.
Okay.
And the reason for that is this poem is kind of looking like talking about when we look at the smallest details. And so one thing that's really important with something like that is you don't want long lines if you're talking about very, very small details. Counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
So in writing this, I'm breaking up the lines more than I typically would in order to isolate the very small details. So more than likely, the way that this poem is written right now tonight is going to stay the same, and it's going to look like a long poem when it's done, but in reality there are several lines that are going to be just one word, because that's all that it takes to say what needs to be said for that line.
I changed the rotation again.
I noticed.
I don't know. Look at this now. I'm seeing kind of this. It almost looks like it's a mountain, kind of coming up there. I kind of like that. Like the blue ice, kind of surrounded by and mixing in with the darkness. But not in a way that defiles it. In a way that kind of keeps it. That kind of makes it cool. How's it coming along?
It's coming. I'm gonna need a minute.
Take your time. Yeah. OneNote's still 2 years behind, so that's fine. I like this. I love the texture of it. I love the color of it. Yeah. Pretty happy at this point. That's not what I was doing. Drink's even better when it's not when it's kind of warmed up. while you finish up that one, I'm gonna start tweaking just the photo of the mountains because I want to work on that. If you think this is gonna be your last poem for the night.
I think so.
Okay, so I'll tweak that. I'll just play with this one because I want to play with it. Again, doing my best to convey the scope of the mountains up there.
All right, I think that one's done.
All right. Is it almost done? Or you said you're done?
I think it's done. This one might be one that I come back to tomorrow, but
fair enough. It's worth noting all of these poems and photos will be available on, I think, both of our websites.
eventually.
Gonna try to get mine updated tomorrow. So, all right, let's look at this one. Listen to ShelbyLynn's poetry.
When we look closely at the small, minute, and achingly tiny details, we find beauty every time. It's the beauty in the obvious but overlooked side of life. It's the beauty found when we stare deeply, yet softly, and find hope. It's the soft warmth found in a lover's eyes when we see more than color and see the soul. When we look closely, we find beauty every time.
There we go. Yeah, there is something immensely powerful about just looking just the close-ups on glaciers and just looking and finding the beauty in them.
Also, if you look long enough at that, I'm sure you can find hundreds of images that you see in your mind's eye, but not in the image itself.
Absolutely. All right. I see the camera battery flashing on you, so I'm just gonna.
Oh no!
Yeah, we're not gonna lose you. That's might be the good time to call it. We've gone 2.5 hours. We've edited 8 photos. That's pretty great.
I think we went faster than we expected to, though.
We certainly did. Yeah, I wasn't sure how far we were gonna get tonight. Like 8 was kind of the. Yeah, we might get to 8, and hey, we did. Looks like look at that.
We got to 8 faster than expected.
We did. This has been so cool to be able to share our creative process with you guys and be able to share it with each other. I haven't she's watched my streams. I've never seen her actually sitting down to write. This is super cool.
And then it's a completely different writing process when you write for a specific prompt, which in this case the photos are absolutely a prompt, versus writing based on an idea.
Yeah.
And so this is honestly more of a challenge for me because I'm used to just forming this idea and having this boiling pot of water that boils and boils and boils and then boils over. And that's when it's I have to write this down. Whereas with this, the only one like that tonight was the eagle. And so all of the other ones, I'm sitting here and looking at it and finding the little things and letting the photo talk to me and tell me what it wants to say, and then sharing that through my poetry. And that's honestly the best way to describe it, is just allowing my mind to connect with this poem and my heart, my soul to connect to this photo, and then allow it to transfer into my work. And that's how I end up writing poems that are not just boiling, bubbling pots of hot water and then bubbling over. So.
I can't follow that. I don't know what to say, I guess.
You'll have to go back and rewatch and be like, what?
Yeah, that went straight through my head, right into my soul. So I'm I'll figure out what kind of how that changed me as a person in a little bit. But. All right.
And that's what poetry really is taking the things about life that confuse us, or the things that are overwhelming to us, or the little things, and putting them into words that are understandable. Because poets kind of see the world a little bit differently. Same way photographers or artists, every different artistic person sees the world differently, and every single person sees the world differently. And so through using our art, we share how we see the world, which is just honestly, it's just such an honor to be able to do that and be able to have the ability to do that. Because not everybody does. And like I said, we all see the world differently, but seeing the world through someone else's eyes is something that's such a beautiful thing and so easily done by art.
It really is. All right. Yeah, with that said, give me 1 second. I'm going to play with this mic for a second. Okay. Yeah. So we drop just to one microphone. I think I'm finishing up this photo here, real quick. Which I yeah hadn't done any black and white photos. Go away, Lightroom. Hadn't done any black and white photos tonight. I feel like this one kind of I don't know. It was leaning into my inner Ansel Adams. Uh, so I figured let's do one of those. I can just do a little more tweaking here, just trying to get a little more. That's a bit much. They're not gonna lie, something kind of cool about that. It wasn't so freaking noisy. Let's go this way. Something like that. Um, Also, random fun fact, just to zoom in and finish the night here. Uh, all this black stuff on this island, you can't really see because this photo's further back, but we do have a photo that leans into it. Is more specific. All this kind of black stuff on the top of this island, that's all harbor seals. That's just a whole bunch of harbor seals hanging out on their own little island. It's a few on this one, but most of them, it's like they're just this whole beach is just harbor seal central, which is the yeah, we look at these mountains and the huge scope of photos like this, and then but like down here are hundreds of amazing animals living their lives and doing their thing, and just this is their home. And it is on us to be good stewards of that because we this is a moment we don't get to experience as much, and also just yeah, like caring for the rest of the world is a thing that we have the ability, uh, some ability to do, not and I would argue a responsibility to since we can. All right. Yeah, with that said, I think this photo is done. Let's do a quick I'm gonna switch back to kind of our typical basic stream. Actually, I'll keep it like this for now. We'll just stick with this. And we'll just look through these photos real quick. So we go to the rated ones. So tonight we looked at our these to load. We've got our house with the rainbow there. We've got a couple different versions of this photo with the telephone pole and the mountains in the background, and then some kind of middle ground photo there, discussing who holds the power. We've got this photo. We got our broken bridge photo, which we think we found a lot of good meaning in, and just our connection, starting with our connection to the past. It's taking a little while to load. Um, we got our train photo, talking about snaking our way through the mountains and through history. We got this mountain here, just yes, our haunting mountain, our queen high above us. Got our beautiful glacier close up, discussing the things we find in the details. Uh, we've got our bald eagle on the ice, who is I think fairly self-explanatory. Uh, and we've got our glacier snaking again through the mountains, kind of like we did on the train. So, all right, Shelby Lynn, come on up here. Switch to this. So here we go. You can throw my chair out of the way. So yeah, thank you all so much for joining us on this little adventure. I told you we were in the same room. Uh, uh, it's weird. You want to look over there. The camera's right there. It's always weird. I'm always struggling not to look at the feed over there. But yeah, so God, thank you all for being part of this. This was such a cool experiment. I don't think this is gonna be the last time that Shelby Lynn and I collaborate on some poetry. Um, so yeah, if you are interested in my work, erichackler.com. I mean, you're on my channel, so also Twisted in Nature Instagram. You can find my work there. These photos and this whole event will be up on the Twisted in, or up on erichackler.com. There's gonna be a page for under my photography. Shelby Lynn. She's got a website, a WordPress website. She also has, if you go on Amazon, if you search her name, Shelby Lynn Pursley. Uh, there you go. There's not a whole lot of Shelby Lynn Pursleys. If you Google her name, you can on Amazon you will find her first book of poetry. So there we go. So look for This Beautiful Life on Amazon if you want to buy some of her beautiful work. And yeah, if you're looking to support some live theater, find the link for the GoFundMe for Heather's. If it hasn't shown up in the comments, we will make sure to drop it in there as well. We'll make a pinned comment out of it. So yeah, you can feel free to donate to Heather's and yes. That's true. We are going to be yes, ShelbyLynn's going to be writing some of her, turning her very powerful poetic eye onto the Heather's rehearsal process. So, which scares me because I'm directing, so that means it's kind of going to be me in front of her poetic lens. That's all right. We'll see where that goes. But yes, okay, plugging done. Uh, and we've had a wonderful journey tonight, just going between photos and poetry and just soul searching. So thank you all for being part of this. Thank you all for joining. If you're watching this afterwards, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been just yeah, it's been a cool little dream to try this out and to get to see it happen. So, huh. Hopefully it happens again soon. I don't think we have to wait too long. This worked out really well. So, with that all said, good night. Stay safe. Reach deep into yourself and find something amazing and bring it out for the world to see because we've got it and we all see the world in different ways and we can all create something incredible this way. So, with that said, good night, stay safe, and we will see you next time.